We'll now go over some of the visual design elements. First, we will go over size and scale. It's very important to remember that in the world of visual design, whatever your elements may be, whether they are words or pictures or videos or graphics or any kinds of buttons, they all have what is considered weight. Heavier elements tend to draw the eyes and grab your attention, and lighter elements tend to not necessarily detract your eyes, but grab your eyes with less attention and tend to grab them second. So now it's very important to remember that since the elements that will draw the eyes tend to be bigger, you want your more important information to be those elements that are in fact heavier. So for example, looking at this, you notice that the first thing your eyes are naturally drawn to is the word cats. Over here, big size, big colors. Now, you're more likely to go to cats than you are to the very small mouse typed right underneath it, because cats is considered to be heavier element when it comes to this page. Okay, now going along with size and scale, there's also the element of symmetry and asymmetry. This hinders on the idea that if you split your page in half, you can have two elements on both sides. If both of the elements are of equal weight, then it is considered to be symmetrical. If one side is considered to be heavier than the other, then it is called asymmetrical. So for example, on this page, you can notice that the left side of the page grabs your attention first because its elements are considered heavier. This is an example of an asymmetric page. Now this is an example of a symmetric page where, while they are two somewhat different elements, the contrast of the colors is there to give you a sense that they are both equal on this playing ground. Next is the rule of odds. The rule of odds holds that if you are dealing with a number of elements, whether or not they are 2 or 4 or 6, if they're even numbers, they tend to be less appealing to the eyes as opposed to odd numbers. This is most clearly used with the number 2 as opposed to any others. So it is suggested that you take your number and make them an odd number, specifically, again, going from 2 up to 3. However, adding too many elements can get to a point of exhaustion and having completely useless elements that aren't needed at all, giving no sense of connection between the project. So for example, this is considered in the visual design world to be less appealing than this is. That's why typically when you go on to a shopping site, you will see them with 3 or 5 suggestions on things to buy, then you would tend to find them with 2 or 4. Okay, next is repetition. Repetition is the usage of the similar or more traditionally same font and format throughout the slides. This can be font. This can also be the size of the font, the style or theme of the font and the entire project as a whole. It can also be the colors throughout it. It's very important to use repetition because it can help lead to a feeling of connection between it all. So for example, this slide seems very out of place if you were to use this because it is now using completely different fonts, completely different sizes of the fonts. It is exuberantly just spewing colors out towards the viewer, and it just can lead to the entire project seeming less connected and cohesive and professional because of this constant change that is happening. Okay, and lastly we have the rule of thirds. And the rule of thirds holds that if you can split a screen into 9 squares of equal size, something that can incorporate a corner taking up 4 of those squares will tend to grab your attention, similarly to how heavier elements could draw your attention. This is based more on location and size than it is true heaviness. So it's very important that if you want people to be drawn to that, to put some of those more important elements in those corners. So for example, the drawing over here, the 4 sides contain the waterfall in the bottom right corner. This naturally draws the eyes because of its size taking up and its connective area, as opposed to the 3 circles that are spewed throughout the other 5 squares. Okay. Now we also have some links to do a test to test your knowledge, or we can try our game. All right. Thank you so much.